All right, hello. Today is Thursday, the 12th of June, 2025, and we are continuing with our interview series where we interview some members of our CMR and our Discord page. It's because we have a lot of interesting stories on there that people can relate to, and people the way they trade and what they do, how they've adjusted, and all that kind of stuff. So today we have our man Daniel from the great town of San Jose. So Daniel, welcome.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into trading and all that, how you trade, what you do, and all that good kind of good fun stuff.
Okay. I'm originally from South Africa, and I've been here in the Bay Area in California for about 11 years. And I came over, I went to business school here, and I ran a fintech startup. Before that, I worked in investment banking in Johannesburg and in London. I've been trading for about 7 years, and I started off just basically trading. I became interested in crypto, and I started trading altcoins like on really high leverage, on like 50x leverage and stuff like that, like using just like MACD and kind of trying to do mean reversion stuff, and kind of worked for a while, but it only really worked when the market was kind of ranging. And then it started trending and it didn't work. And I kind of went through this process of coming up with an idea about, a setup or something that might work, and then sort of trying it a few times and, not working over a small sample size of maybe, 10 trades, and then deciding there was something wrong with that edge, trying something else. And I kind of just went back and forth with this for years. And eventually I just quit. I just thought, no, this is basically not for me. And so then basically the big change for me, like since I joined CMR, is basically realizing that it's about what works over time, like on a large sample size of trades, and basically back testing a system to have confidence in that, and then just executing that system. I could never really do that before because, like, I'd come up with an idea for an edge and try to trade it, and it wouldn't work. And I didn't have the ability to kind of see the big picture enough to stick with it long enough to kind of see if it's working or not. And so then, like, when I joined CMR, I basically, the big difference for me, and I did do this the wrong way, which is that I basically just followed the CMR process and trades because I basically just believed in Jason, because I could just tell from the stuff that, like, what you've been through, getting chopped up in the 90s, and how you changed your process and all that stuff. And you're never talking about like what's going to happen in the future. But that what happened was that process of following the CMR trades gave me the ability to work on a couple of key, like, weaknesses that I have, like bailing out of trades early. That's my cat, by the way. Apologies for that.
I can tell.
Um, Not taking system trades, because I have like some macro view which conflicts with that, or it just feels wrong, that kind of thing. So basically really brought a lot of those weaknesses to the surface and allowed me to like systematically work on those. And also, like I said, to kind of understand how it's the statistical process. And so then from that point, just let me know when you want me to stop.
No, this is what we want to hear.
Okay. So then from that point, I basically started to backtest and develop my own process, which is still in development. And basically, I found like a couple of things that are interesting. And the one is basically similar to the CMR process, but like letting the trades run until they become crowded in the opposite direction.
Hmm.
And that looks like it's got a lot of promise, but it's got a pretty low win rate. So that can be really, you can take 7 or 8 losses in a row or more. And, but it seems to be very profitable, especially in the equity futures. And then the other thing that I've developed is a similar kind of concept, but in cryptocurrencies using some cryptocurrency positioning data, which is just different. That seems to show that it's got some promise on the long side, but not the short side. And so, yeah, just working on developing that and becoming a better trader.
Awesome. How long have you been a member of CMR?
I think about 2.5 years.
No, okay.
And by the way, I've had my first two profitable years in those 2.5 years.
Awesome. That's good news.
Yeah.
Well, that's
So
good. Yeah, I think some of the things you say are important. As you know, I do put my trades, what I am doing, on our newsletter and live time and all that. But I do encourage people to not copy trade for a million reasons. I know people do that, but I think the reason I put them on there for the most part is because I want people to do. I'm hoping that people can do exactly what it seems you are doing, right? Which is not necessarily to copy trade me, but to maybe take some of the things that I do. Sorry, just hold on. Hello? Yes? Hey, I gotta call you back, Matt. I'm just in the middle of something. All right, thanks. Sorry about that. So yeah, not just to copy trade or to copy trade what I'm doing, but to take the things that I use and some of the disciplines that I use to develop your own process, you know. I always tell people like you shouldn't want to copy trade me because you should want to be better than me because you can take the things that you're doing, you can take things that you learn from other places, and you can add things that you learn maybe from what we're doing at CMR, and you can be better than me. That should be the goal, right? Not to copy trade me. There's so many, I think, pitfalls in copy trading anybody that in the end it hurts more than it helps, I think. But at least the lessons that people can see me go through with my trades, my winning trades, my losing trades, you know, can help them, I believe, to develop a process for them. And I'm glad to hear that's what you're doing because that's really what we try to encourage here. You know,
thanks.
that's really the name of the game. So it's good to hear that that's what you're going through, and it's good to hear that it's starting to work for you too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I will say like following the CMR process is not easy.
No,
Huh?
but what is?
Exactly.
Is there anything in this business that's easy? That's what I'd like to know.
No, no, no. That's a good point.
It's not easy for me either, and I've been doing it for 25, the better part of 25 years, and it's still not easy. So yeah, it's not easy, and doing any of this is not easy. Even when you develop your own process, there's nothing about this that's easy. I think we know that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
but the idea is to, you know, learn as you go, you know, don't blow out, stay alive, learn as you go, and hopefully slowly but surely develop a process that will provide you with good risk adjusted returns.
The way that I've been thinking about it recently is that my job is to get myself into trades that are in the money and can potentially make me a lot of money whilst only taking small losses consistently. That's basically the job.
I think that is what trading is. You know, I've said that hundreds of times, you know, people want to believe that trading is about predicting what the market's going to do. And I'm here to say unequivocally, that is not what trading is because you are not over time going to be able to predict what the market's going to do. The best thing you can try and do is exactly what you just said, getting to trades that offer a big payout where the risk you can take a small loss, right? That's all this game is, right? And obviously I have my ways looking at the positioning and all that to determine what trades offer that kind of payout relative to the risk. There are other ways to do that too. And like I say, if you combine other ways and this way and all these things, then you can really come up with something great, provided you stick to your discipline, you know, right? It's almost, it's very hard to develop a process that over time gives you great risk adjusted returns, but that's actually the easy part. As hard as that is to do, you know, I think you'd agree that's actually the easier part.
Yep.
The harder part is maintaining your discipline to that. Like you say, you have something that can lose 7 or 8 times in a row.
Yeah.
It's very hard to keep putting those trades on, right?
And in my backtesting, it shows that the more painful it is, the more profitable it is.
I think that's it, you know, and that's why I think that's true on so many levels with this. And it makes sense if you really think about it logically, right? It's so true, like you say, with a system. It's so true even with individual trades. The harder it is to make this trade, most likely, the better chance you have of having very good risk adjusted return. Every trade that I put on, almost every trade that I put on, I'm like, how could you possibly put this trade on here? Like it makes absolutely no sense. I do have a degree in economics. I do follow the macro and all that stuff, which I probably shouldn't, but I do it I just find it interesting. But it's like every trade that I ever put on makes no sense on a macro basis, almost ever. I can try to say that it could make sense, but given the current environment and the current market, my trades make really no sense
Yes.
on a macro basis, which makes them very hard to do. But that's exactly why you get such a asymmetric payout, I think, right? Because it's so hard to do. Nobody wants to take that trade. Therefore, the payout can be various. So
So I've got a great example. So last year, I think you caught a good short in cotton, and I think it was last year, maybe it was the year before. But like basically at the time, the crude oil price started ripping higher, and I was like, no ways, man. This is not. There's no ways this is going to work. I mean, how can it work? You know?
yeah.
And it just collapsed like 10% in 2 weeks, and I missed it. And that was extremely bruising. That was really painful.
Yeah, I mean, I miss trades as well, and it is painful. In particular when you're counting on a small number of trades to be the majority of your P&L, you know. Yeah, it's painful. This business is painful, you know, something that people I think don't really fully get, especially when they get into it, right? They think it's going to be fun and easy, and you're buying momentum and you're making money and all that, but I think in time, everybody learns that that's just not, you know, you better be able to live with a lot of psychological pain if you're going to if you're going to be doing this for any amount of time. That's what I think anyway. But yeah, I think the point that you make is very valid. You know, the more painful it is, the more profitable it is over time.
yeah, I guess it kind of makes sense. It's just less people willing to do it.
That's right. You know, it all comes down to, you know, how many people really do make great risk-adjusted returns over time. And the answer is a very, very small percentage of people. So therefore, because a very small percentage of people are willing to take on these what look at the time as super painful trades to do, right? So if you can take on those painful trades, then you can do that. Because if you aren't willing to take on those trades, then you won't do it. So it's that whole contrarian sort of thought process and that whole contrarian nature that sort of logically makes sense, you know.
100%.
Yeah, so that's a great way to verbalize. So what else can you tell us?
So you would think like, what can I share that's going to be helpful to other people?
Yeah,
And the one thing, like, I don't know if there's something to this or not, but like, I find that like trading, you get very like stuck in your own, I get very stuck in my own mind and can get really sucked into like watching the price action and stuff and not have a great perspective. And so last year I started volunteering at the animal shelter and my trading results just improved almost immediately. Now, I, I don't know if there's more to that than just having some kind of outlet to get away and think about something else and then come back with a sort of fresher perspective. But it's just something that kind of really worked. It's just the more stuff I do to kind of give back, the luckier I get, and the more self-centered I am, the more unlucky I get.
I think that's great. You know, that's obviously a big theme that I push a lot. I'm sure you've heard me talk about that before as well, which is something that I did not think about or understand as a younger person. And it doesn't feel like something that younger people would necessarily get, but I found as I got older that it's absolutely the truth. The more you give, the more you get. You know, that's a famous, actually, Paul McCartney line, right? And in the end, the love you get is equal to the love you make, or
Yes.
the love you take is equal to the love you make, right? And again, it was something I never even thought of, much less believed, until I got older and found that that's absolutely true. And it's just as true with trading as anything else, truthfully. And there's so many reasons, psychological reasons behind it, I think. But I find myself a lot getting too caught up in the market sometimes. And so I need to back up and, get involved with other things that I do. And then I fall right back in to a good place again. You can overstimulate your mind with this stuff, right? The bulls, the bears, you know what I mean? The tariffs, the CPI, there's so much information coming in all the time. And truthfully, probably 99% of it is completely irrelevant. It's sort of the Wall Street spin. They have to produce stuff every day. That's how the Wall Street game is played, right? CNBC, Bloomberg, whoever, they have to produce stuff every day. That doesn't mean that it's relevant, but there's always something you can say, well, why was the market up today? Tariff talk or blah, blah, blah. It's always like after the fact stuff, right?
Yeah.
All this stuff becomes very, very noisy and can confuse you in your head and take you off of your process, which is really the biggest sin that anyone can do. And one, like I say, that I'm still guilty of. I'm a lot less guilty of it than I used to be. Hopefully, I get better at it every day. But yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice for everybody. Get away from it a little bit and give back at the same time. There's a famous thing with I take guitar lessons, and this actually just happened to me yesterday. I'll be working on something and working on it and working on it, and I'm having trouble with it, and I'm having trouble with it. And so I work harder at it and harder at it and harder at it. And the guitar teachers always tell me, what you have to do is just step away, and pick it up tomorrow. The brain has a way of doing that and it happens to me a lot. I'm struggling with this thing, struggling with this thing. I'll put it down. I'll go to sleep. I'll get up the next day. I'll get back on my guitar and suddenly I can play the thing, right? There's something about the brain resetting that allows it to absorb what you were trying to do rather than force it. It absorbs it and suddenly things start to make more sense. So I think that's true across everything. I'm not a brain guy. You know what I mean? I don't understand the physiology of the brain or whatever, but there's definitely something in the brain that works that way. That's nice to hear too, that you're doing that and that's helping. Here's proof, one man's proof right here that in fact that does help. And that's going to help me because I do get caught up a lot. I work out of my house, and my house is set up in a way that in my main room where my wife and my kids and I all hang out is also where my desk is. So I can sit at my desk all day and all night and be reading stuff and looking at stuff and watching stuff. And sometimes I fall into that trap and whenever I fall into that trap, suddenly I'm not letting it flow. I'm not letting my trades flow, right? You start overthinking it and over worrying. And then once you're over worrying, you're not that whole thing, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's a great point that nobody has really brought up in any of these interviews. So thanks for that. I think that's really good.
You're welcome. I hope it helps. I mean, the other thing is like I find like being able to like look at what I'm thinking is really really helpful. Really hard to do. It took me a long time to get there with my trading. But like instead, if I'm going to do something, like I see a breakout and I'm going to buy it, just the ability to say like, why do you want to buy that break? Is it and then again like is it part of my process? But just I guess not being so stuck in the price action all the time kind of helps to get away from the price action. It helps you to bring back that perspective of kind of looking at yourself from the outside a little
Yeah,
bit.
95% of this is you. So having a good grasp on you, and like you say, stepping outside and having a look at yourself if you can from the outside, is very helpful. One of the things as a loan operator, one of the things that CMR has helped me a lot with, is we have a whole bunch of people on there, that are all sort of trading the markets and doing their own thing and doing this and doing that. And I like to verbalize, like on the Discord, for example, some of the things that I'm going through, because then I get a whole bunch of feedback, like, hey, Jason, just like anybody, I'm human and I have my faults, and there's nothing better than having a community like this for me at least, to throw my faults out into so that people can then throw it back at me. I might not be seeing it, right? Here's what I'm thinking right now, blah, 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 blah. And people come back and be like, well, doesn't that go against this whole thought process of this or that or the other thing? And I'll be like, yeah, you're right. It does. So that's where, truthfully, having this kind of community, it wasn't part of the plan when this was started, but has really helped me. So it's been good for me as well.
Really glad you did it. It's made a big difference to me. So thank you.
I'm glad to hear that. Sometimes,
Yeah.
that was why we started this whole thing, to try and sort of pass along anything that I may know, and lessons that I may have learned to help others in this whole journey. Sometimes, as I watch people on the Discord doing things, sometimes I'm like, geez, these guys are, and you do what you want to do, you know what I mean? But sometimes I'm just like, man, these guys are not hearing a single thing that I'm saying. But then, of course, we get a lot of the other, like what you have said, where people are, hey, this really has helped me and change it. And I know it takes time, and everybody is in their own place and their own step along this whole journey, and I see people come through, they're newer traders and do this and that. And then, slowly they kind of adjust and they learn. And that's normal. There's a learning curve there.
Yeah. But
And I was,
just, you know,
and I,
just full disclosure, I'm still, I've been known to day trade the Nasdaq futures. You know, it's not like I've got it. I'm like where I need to be at all. But
there's
you
nothing
know,
wrong with day trading the Nasdaq futures if that's what you do, you know.
it's not really what I do.
As long as you're disciplined about it and all that. I mean, we actually have a pretty good process, I think, with that whole lead lag Nasdaq thing.
Yeah.
That I'm sure you're aware of. I think does a really good job of trading the Nasdaq futures intraday. I used to do that a lot using that process, and I did well. I can't really do that now because the size that I'm trading won't really allow for it, you know, and particularly on a risk basis, you know. Return always is great and works, right? But it's the risk thing where if I have to move a whole bunch of Nasdaq futures kind of quickly, you know, that's not good for me. So I can't use that. But yeah, we all, you know, we all fall off our discipline once in a while. The key is to not do it, you know, too much, do it less as we go and
Yeah.
hopefully not lose too much money while doing it, I guess.
It's been a pretty good day trading environment, you know, especially since the bottom in April. But you know, nothing lasts forever.
And that's the truth. All right, well, cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Any other nice lessons for people or any last pieces of advice you would give to anybody watching this that, you know, that you've picked up in the journey here that you might be able to share, or you pretty much gave it all away?
Yeah, I think I pretty much gave it all away already.
All right, no,
So,
well, I think you shared some really valuable lessons.
okay,
Appreciate that. I appreciate you taking the time to share that stuff.
of course, and thank you for everything. It's made a huge difference to me.
I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that, man. I appreciate that comment. I really do. So good. Good luck out there in San Jose. So you're not working at all. You're just trading now, or?
Do consulting work, but it doesn't take up that much of my time. So, got a lot of time. Yeah.
All right. Well, good luck with it all. Let us know.
Thanks, man.
As always, let us know if we can improve this service in any way. And yeah, are you active on pretty active on the Discord?
Yeah, I'm the guy with the little with the royal flash.
Oh yeah. All right, cool. Well, good. Well, good. Thanks for contributing. I always say it's the contribution of everybody I have found after we've had this for a few years. That really is what adds value here. You know, there's only so much I can do. Like I'm a guy, I know some things. I'm fallible just like everybody else. The more people that contribute to this, I think the better off it is for everybody. So I appreciate, you know, rather than learn from one guy, we get to learn from everybody who contributes, right? So I appreciate that. And thanks for talking today, man, and thanks for being a part of it. And we'll see you on the Discord.
Take care.